guys, all my videos are made up of answers to your questions. And we've already talked many times about how to tone lightened hair, which products to use, and what specific features of the hair canvas you need to consider. But since you mentioned in your comments that you tone with the 10th level, I want to draw your attention to this topic once again. What is lightened hair? These are hairs whose pigment has already been lightened, meaning they have a blonde depth level, that is light hair, and all they need is to have a shade added. The dyes we work with have different levels of pigmentation, meaning different pigment densities. This could be level 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. In other words, getting darker and darker. But blonde is above all these levels. It is higher than level 9. And then, as is widely recognized, almost all professional brands have a 10th level, potentially an 11th, and sometimes even a 12th level. This is an exceptionally light color, specifically a special blonde, meaning it is artificially created. But the 10th, 11th, and 12th levels are lightening dyes. These dyes lighten and contain a minimal amount of pigments for neutralization and adding tone, because hair that has been lightened with a lightening dye is already light, and only a minimal amount of pigment is needed for neutralization. However, the 10th, 11th, and 12th rows consist of lightening dyes. Because these specific dyes are designed for lightening hair, they must be mixed with much higher percentages of developer, typically requiring either a 9% or a 12% strength. Their chemical formula is designed so that they open up the hair well, penetrate deeply, lighten intensely, and tone just a little, meaning they allow you to achieve blonde coloring in one step, but in 2 stages, lightening and toning. And please remember that no matter how low the volume of developer you choose to mix with your lightening dyes, they will absolutely never function as toners. Instead, they will always remain powerful lighteners that lift the hair's natural pigment. So if you apply a lightening dye to hair that has already been lightened with powder, which is the maximum porosity that modern dyes can create, you are further increasing the porosity and fragility of the hair to the maximum. Yes, these dyes contain very little pigment, and that's exactly what's needed for toning previously lightened hair, but with a completely different dye, a toner. For example, in Igora Royal, there's the 9.5 series. And 9.5 is not the 9th level, nor is it between the 9th and 10th levels. This is a transparent dye with very little ammonia and very little pigment, designed for toning lightened and bleached hair. This dye won't damage the hair, unlike the 10th, 11th, and 12th levels, and it will tone exactly the way you want. And it only works with a low-volume developer, specifically Igora Royal 9.5 with 3% peroxide. And if we're talking about the Blonde Me dye, that's the letter T for toning dye, not L for lightening. And this dye will work with a 2% developer. A toning dye contains this amount of pigment, meaning it's practically a transparent layer that is applied over the hair color to make a correction. And the 9th, 8th, 7th, and so on. Those are darkening dyes and they won't give you blonde. Just like you, I also tried toning with the 10th and 12th series using both low and high volume developers. But you must understand, the hair becomes quite abnormal. It gets far too dry and very porous. It dries out, breaks easily, is incredibly hard to style, and eventually it just falls out. And really, who needs that? That is exactly why professional hair colorists, when utilizing a comprehensive professional color system in their work, strictly adhere to and follow the proper product application techniques in order to avoid any potentially harmful or negative effects on the structure of the hair.